Hey everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here with you again. Today going to show you how to play what is apparently the 8th best track from Guns N' Roses' mega-selling album, Appetite for Destruction. Now, I say 8th best track because on nearly every list I've found wherein they count down the worst to best of the 12 tracks on Appetite, My Michelle usually, but not always, ends up in 8th place. Fair enough, I guess. That's about where I'd place it as well. Maybe 7th. However, with an album this thoroughly stacked with flat-out bangers, 8th on Appetite is better than most other bands' very best songs. That's it. Let's close in here a little bit, have a look at how she's played, shall we? Alright then, Guns N' Roses and My Michelle. We are tuned down 1/2 step to E flat for this tutorial because that is where you'll usually find G and R tuned for the most part, and here's your tuning. So then, there's multiple layered guitars going on throughout this track, so I'm pretty much just going to show you most of Slash's parts, which are most of the prominent guitar parts anyway. I'll show you a few of Izzy's. Basically show you how to play this one start to finish on just one guitar, yeah? So then, before the killer opening riff kicks in to jumpstart My Michelle, we have the quiet opening, right? This right here. We're going to be repeating that 4 times. So a little bit tricky to play this. We're starting here with a bar on the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B string with our index, ring finger up here on 4 the A. We're going to ride down the 4 middle strings and back up again. And then back down to the D string to finish. Right? Then we're going to take that 4 the A, drop it back to 3 while still holding that bar on the 2s, ride down the 4 middle strings, and when you get to the B string, you're going to lift off to open B. Kind of like that. I'm lifting my whole hand right out of the chord. Right? Then we're going to drop into this B chord here, still holding a bar on the 2s, but now we're covering the A string as well. Ring finger on the 4 of the D, and do the exact same thing. When you get to the B string, just lift right off. Kind of like that, right? And then drop into an F sharp minor chord. And repeat that little progression twice, just going down the bottom 4 strings, back up again, back to the A string, and repeat. Right? And that is the intro, and you're going to repeat that 4 times. Right? 4 times. And over top of that, Izzy is playing this. These little descending kind of plucked double stops. I'm kind of hybrid picking this. 9 of the G, 9 of the high E. Back it up 1 spot, back it up another, and then off to 6 of the G, 5 of the high E, and let it ring. That's what he does the first time. And the second time he does this. Kind of hangs in that 6-5, right, and hits it like 4 more times. Bop, 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 bop. And then the final time, he kind of does 16th notes. Before finally dropping off to that 6-5 and letting it ring. And when that little progression is playing, we have this lick. So 2 onto 4 of the G into a full step bend, right? You're going to pick it at the top and release it a 1/2 step, right to about there, rebend, release off to 2, and then grab the 5 of the B for a full step bend, right? And then we drop into the opening riff. So let's kick on some distortion here for the opening riff, and the opening riff goes like this. And then we're into the first verse. So we're starting here on the 4th fret of the A string, a little bit of a waggle, right? Then we're going to go open 3, 4, 3. picking each note. Now, I've watched a couple of tutorials from other instructors on YouTube on how to play this one, and they're doing hammer-ons and pull-offs and whatnot. I've listened to the isolated guitar parts for this one, and he is picking every single note. Right, so off of that 3, we're going to go 2, 3, 2, open. Kind of like that, picking each note. Right, and that's the first half of the riff. Then we're going to drop onto the 2nd fret of the low E, pick it 3 times, off to open, back onto the 2nd fret. Kind of like that, right? Then you're going to hit 2 open A's and go open 1, 2 of the low E. And before repeating, you're going to go off to open E again and drop back onto that 2 and then repeat the riff. Right, and repeat. Right, and repeat 4 times. The 4th and final time, you're going to do that. So coming off the open A, right there, you're going to grab the 2nd fret of the low E, step and a half, bend, release. Kind of like that. Right, and that's the opening riff. Then we drop into the, now there's harmonies going on underneath that, which we're not going to get into, but that is the main riff if you were playing this on one guitar, right? Right, 4 times. And then we're into the first verse, and we're going to do this little descending pattern here with 3-finger power chords. Right, so we're going C sharp, 3-finger power chord here. We're going to hit it twice, very quickly, down, up, and choke it off. And then you're going to hit it again, back it up 1 spot to C, hit that C twice, and then back it off to B. And let the B ring. So you're choking off in the C sharp, choke it off, hit it again, back it up to C, quick little down, up, choke it off, right? And then off to B, and let the B ring. Into this. So we're dropping into an F sharp power chord here. We're going to hit this 3 times, off to open, back into F sharp. Just lift your index off. Keep your fingers planted on those 4s. Kind of like that, right? Then you're going to drop into an A power chord, hit it twice, back up to an E power chord, and then back into F sharp. And choke it off. That is the first one. It's also the 3rd one, this descending pattern that we're playing and repeating 4 times, right? Right, with a different ending each time, except the 1st and 3rd are exactly the same. Right, that's the first one. It's also the 3rd one. The 2nd one is this. So we're going C sharp, back to C, back to B. Right, the 2nd time we're going to go back to C sharp, hit it 3 times, move it into D, move it back to C sharp. Kind of like that, right? And then you're going to grab the A string, big slide up and down the neck, right? So that's the first half of the verse. Third one is the same as the first one. 4th one, a little bit different. We're going to go off to A, coming off that B. Right? A, F sharp, E, F sharp. Hitting that F sharp twice before going off to E. And again, just lifting off of the low E string, keeping your fingers planted on those 4s, right? And that is the verse. And then we're into the chorus with more power chords. D to E to B, right? And then C sharp, E to A. Just sliding these power chords around, right? D, E, B, C sharp, E, A, and then we're into this. So we're going to drop into D, and then you're going to grab the root note here on the 5th fret, right, of that D power chord. Quick little down up, palm muted, right, and then back it up to C sharp, do the same thing, and then back it up to B and do the same thing, right, and then off to A, grab the 4th fret of the low E, and then back to A again, kind of like that, right, and then choke it off. And that drops back into the main riff again. So that is the chorus. C sharp, E, A, D, C sharp, B, A. Choke it off. Back to the main riff for 2 repeats. And at this point, coming off that open A string, we're going to drop into a little double stop here on the 4s, G and B, 2 fingers, nice wide vibrato. Kind of like that, right? Before dropping into the next verse, which is exactly the same as the first. Into the next chorus, which is twice as long and a little variation the second playthrough. D, E, B, C sharp, E, A, D, C sharp, B, A, right? And at this point, right in the middle of the chorus, we have this lick. Just a little lick that it throws in there to break up the first half of the chorus and the second half. So we're starting on the 7 of the G, quick little bend, ride down the 5s of the B and the high E, and then back up to the B, kind of like that. Quick little bend of the 8 of the B down to the 5 of the high E, and then 8 off to 5 of the B, finishing with this. Just a little bend release of that 7 off to 5, back to 7, back to 5, finishing on the 7 of the D. Alright, that's the little lick in the middle of the chorus. And then we're into the second half of the chorus with a little variation. D, E, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, right, instead of A, the second time. And then we finish it the same way. And that leads into the bridge with that. Right there. So that whole chorus put together. D, E, B, C sharp, E, A, B. And then the lick. Right? D, E, B, C sharp, E, F sharp. And then leading into the bridge, we do that. Little hammer on 3 to 4 of the A. And then catch the open G, open D on the upstroke and let it ring. And then we're into the bridge. So the bridge, more power chords. So that's the first half of the bridge. Second half, pretty much the exact same thing. So we're going more power chords, E to D to A, right? And then B. Then you're going to grab the 3rd fret of the low E, a little bit of a little micro bend, right, and then off to an E major chord. And when you catch the E major chord, you're going to hit it on the downstroke and then catch the top 2 or 3 strings on the upstroke. And then drop into B. Actually, that's not a bend. It's vibrato on that 3rd fret, that G note, right? and then off to E. And then catch the top 2 or 3 strings on the upstroke. Then you're going to hit this E major chord again, into D, off to A, and then we're into this blues progression in B for about 1 bar. Kind of like that, right? So we're holding like a B5 chord here, 2 of the A, 4 of the D, bouncing off the 6 of the D string for about a bar. We're going to bounce off that like 4 times, right? Right, and then we're going to repeat. But the next time, leading into the solo, instead of that blues progression, we're going to grab just a single B note. And we're going to do that. So we're going to kind of slowly tremolo pick that B note on the 2nd fret of the A. Right? You can get a little pinch harmonic on that 4 when you drop onto it. Great. Sounds fantastic. Now, before we dig into the solo, I want to show you the rhythm going on underneath the main solo. It's A into B. Grabbing a quick D off to A back into B, right? A, B, D, A, B, right? Then we're going to drop into G for about a bar and just chug on that for like 3/4 of a bar. Bum, 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 bum. And before repeating, a quick stab of an A power chord and then repeat. Bum, 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 bum. Right, that is the rhythm going on underneath the main solo. Before the main solo gets underway, there's this little progression. That right there. So we're still soloing at the very beginning before the solo proper gets underway. We're going to do a little bit of soloing in F sharp with this. Just a little double stop here on the 4s, G and B string. Give it a bend, a little vibrato. Kind of like that, right? Then we're going to move up to a 16, G and B, double bend, right into this. Just 2 bends, another little bend release, and then just a little back and forth from the 14 of the G onto the 16 of the D, right? And then we're into the solo proper over this, right? That right there. With this. And that's pretty much the solo right there. Not the most iconic of Slash solos. So we're starting with a slide into 11 of the G, down to 12 of the B, back and forth twice. Finishing on that 12. Back it up to 10. Right into a full step bend of the B string, right? Little vibrato into this. So we're going to grab the 7 of the high E, quick little pull off from 10 off to 7 of the B. And then you're going to grab a double stop here on the 9s of the G and the B and just give it a full step bend and just kind of leave it up there, right? Right, you can play with that if you want. Do something like that, you know, but I think he's just raising it and leaving it there. Right? And then we're into this. So we're riding up the 7s of the E and the B string, little bar here with your index. And then you're going to do a pre-bend on the 9 of the G and release it, and do that twice. Right into this. So you're going to ride up the 9s from the G to the D, and then grab the 10 of the A and give 4 bend releases. And then vibrato, right? Into this. So we're off to a lot of bending going on here on the A and the D string and the low E. 7 of the A, full step bend, right? Into that. So coming out of that bend, we're going to go 5, 7, up to 7 of the low E, just roll that up there, back to the 5 of the A, and then back to the 7 of the low E and go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Right, and when you get back to 3, little bend, release, right? Then you're going to move that into 5, another full step bend, and when you get it to pitch, pick it again. Then you're going to go 4 onto 5 of the A, pick that note again, and then go 5, 7, 4, 5 of the D. When you get onto that 5 of the D, bend, release, and then release it and try to get a little pinch harmonic, right? And to finish the solo, 7 of the A, full step bend, little vibrato, and that's the end of the solo. So let's take that solo right from the top, nice and slow, and then we'll be done. Right, up to 16. And at this point, the rhythm guitar has already started with this. Now, at this point, during the final verse, that part right there, when we go C sharp into D, back to C sharp, he grabs the G string for that little slide up and down the neck, right? Into the final chorus. And right at this point there's another lick, and I don't know what it is, you know, something like that, I think. I didn't learn it, I'm sorry. I think that's the lick, very similar to that. Anyway, final chorus, right? Right, and then coming off this A the final time, we drop into the outro, which is this. That right there. So we're grabbing this 4th fret of the low E string down to an open A twice, kind of like that, repeated 3 times. Right, that 4, a little micro bend, right, or kind of like a little half step bend. And then you drop into C and then repeat. Like 4 times, and then the outro. That right there. So just pull offs 4 to 2 to open of the G, 4 to 2 to open of the D. Like 3 times in a row. Final time, little bend of that 4 of the G, release it off to 2, and then 4 to 2 to open to the D. And then an A power chord to finish, right? End of track. And there you go. That is how you play My Michelle Guns and Roses. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Maybe drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.